Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, July 2nd. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thanks for joining us back here for 3 News Now, where we give you your top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. There is a lot going on today. We're going to get right to a major headline that was pretty shocking this morning. Ghislaine Maxwell, who was a longtime associate of convicted sex offender and accused sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein, has been arrested today in New Hampshire. Maxwell is the woman who is accused of being Epstein's madam. Epstein is said to have killed himself in a federal detention center in New York last summer while he was awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Maxwell was accused by many women of basically recruiting them to give Epstein and his friends massages, at which point they were allegedly pressured into having sex with Epstein and others. Now, those accusations until now never resulted in criminal charges against Maxwell, but today an indictment made public says that Maxwell assisted, facilitated, and contributed to Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by, among other things, helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse girls under the age of 18. The FBI says that Maxwell was arrested today in New Hampshire without incident, and she is expected to appear virtually before a judge. Nationally, the unemployment news is that 4.8 million jobs were created in June, and that has helped to drop the U.S. unemployment rate to 11% now. The U.S. has recovered about 1/3 of the 22 million jobs it lost related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now remember, there were many jobs lost, so these new jobs coming back have been closely tied to states reopening, although we don't know how that will continue. That has been a bit stalled as we see cases again starting to surge across the country. Across the U.S., states have received more than 1.4 million initial unemployment claims. That's for the week ending June 27th. Here in Ohio, for the week ending June 27th, there were 35,623 initial jobless claims filed this week. Continued weekly unemployment claims do continue to drop here in Ohio since the stay-at-home order has been lifted. So these are people who are not filing for the first time, but people who are filing for a second week, a third week, a fourth week, a fifth week, so on and so forth. For the week ending June 27th, this past week, Ohio reported 443,621 continued unemployment claims. At its peak, the continued unemployment claims in Ohio were over 775,000. That total peak number was 776,302. That was for the week ending April 25th. That was at the peak of continued unemployment claims here in Ohio. Just to give you a little bit of context, so now we're at about 444,000 continued unemployment claims. Well, before COVID-19 struck here in Ohio, before we became aware of it, the continued claims per week were around 70,000. So far, the state of Ohio has asked the federal government to borrow money in order to continue to pay out unemployment benefits. They've asked the Department of Labor for $3.1 billion to be able to continue to make unemployment payments to people. To give you a little bit of context about that, during the Great Recession, which was from December 2007 to June 2009, Ohio borrowed $3.4 billion from the federal government. They finally repaid that money in 2016, but it was not at a cheap rate. That was along with $258 million in interest. So borrowing this money is definitely not free. That's for sure for the state of Ohio. Now, if you do still need to file, you can do that at unemployment.ohio.gov. And remember, if you've had a tough time getting through, if you've had to reset that PIN or any of those difficulties that people have had, and you've had to actually call the Department of Jobs and Family Services here in Ohio and you weren't able to file in a timely manner, you can still do it. They can backdate your claim and you will be able to get those funds. And Ohio is borrowing money from the federal government to make sure that you can get that money. Let's talk about some shocking news out of Medina County. They have reported a massive increase in COVID-19 infections within 1 week. Now, Medina County is not a place that had been previously particularly hit hard. So when I tell you this number of their massive increase, I want you to keep that in context there. They've reported about a 190% increase in COVID-19 cases within 1 week. So they had several days with 0 new cases. So reporting from June 22nd to June 29th, 43 positive cases was this massive increase for them. So 43 positive cases in a 7-day period put them at a 190% increase for COVID-19. Medina health officials say that the average age of the people testing positive is now 40 in Medina County, and that they are coming from all parts of the country. They want to remind people heading into this 4th of July weekend that mass gatherings are limited to 10 people. Here's a few other reminders from the Medina County Health Commissioner. If you are having a party, consider cutting that guest list back to just a few family members or a couple families that you regularly interact with, and wear a mask when you are shopping for supplies, when you're shopping for anything, not just for your party. Wear a mask and be mindful of the size of groups that you are in throughout the weekend. And remember, keep your distance when you can. They remind people that we are still in a pandemic and we should all actively be doing everything that we can to keep the curve flat as we see the cases across Ohio surging here in the past weeks. Let's take a look at those Ohio numbers right now. Yesterday, we saw the largest number of new daily reported cases that we've seen here in Ohio since April 20th. We saw a total of 1,076 new daily reported coronavirus cases here in Ohio, according to the Ohio Department of Health. That brings the total here in Ohio to just under 53,000. That's 52,865 of confirmed and probable cases dating all the way back to March 9th. We did see a drop in deaths yesterday. There were 13 new reported deaths yesterday, which is down significantly from Wednesday when we saw from Tuesday when we saw 45 new reported deaths, bringing that total number of deaths to now 2,876 here in Ohio. Hospitalizations did also dip just a little bit. We saw 72 new reported hospitalizations yesterday, down from 93 reported hospitalizations on Tuesday, bringing that total number to 7,911. And when we look at ICU admissions, those have been staying pretty steady so far this week. On Monday, we saw 15 new ICU admissions. On Tuesday, we saw 15 new ICU admissions. And yesterday, on Wednesday, we saw 14 new ICU admissions, bringing that total now to 2,008 ICU admissions out of all of those people who have been hospitalized here in the state of Ohio dating back to March 9th. Nationally, the U.S. reached 50,000 single-day newly reported cases of COVID-19 for the first time yesterday. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. So yesterday, they found approximately 50,700 new cases of COVID-19 reported. Now, as those no numbers come in, that could change, but as of now, that's the number reported yesterday. At a minimum, 50,700 new cases reported just yesterday across the U.S. As of early this morning, we do still lead the world with nearly 2.7 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 and more than 128,000 deaths related to COVID-19 here in the U.S. Earlier this week, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the nation's top leading infectious disease expert, said he worries that we could get to 100,000 new daily reported cases of COVID-19 here in the U.S. He said that what's happening in the South and the West puts the entire country at risk, and we could get to that 6-digit number if we don't start listening to public health authorities. There, of course, has been a new round of shutdowns across the country, which health officials do expect to help stop the spread of COVID-19, and most places are putting in place mandatory face mask use indoors in public spaces, but that's not expected to be strictly enforced in lots of places, and here in Ohio, at least at the statewide level, we are not there yet with requiring masks in public spaces. Speaking of how COVID-19 is impacting us nationally, let's take a look at what's happening in the NFL. An anonymous source, so it's not yet been confirmed or officially announced by the NFL, but an anonymous source did report that they plan to cut the preseason by half. So not completely, but by half. So right now the plan is to cut out weeks 1 and 4 of the preseason and keep with weeks 2 and 3 instead. And the schedule should stay the same. They should just be dropping week 1 from the schedule and dropping week 4 from the schedule. But depending on your team, the league might make some changes because the hope is for every team to have at least one home game. So here in Cleveland, here's how that would look for the Cleveland Browns. They would play August 22nd in Green Bay against the Green Bay Packers, and they would play August 30th here at home against our new head coach Kevin Stefanski's former team, the Minnesota Vikings. We will wait for official confirmation from the NFL on that, but as of right now, that is what sources are reporting. Now, when we talk about the NFL and the Cleveland Browns, they did send out a survey, which we talked about earlier this week, asking season ticket holders what they would be comfortable with. And one thing they did ask on that survey is if people would be comfortable wearing a mask inside First Energy Stadium. Well, celebrities are sharing photos on social media in order to promote wearing masks. They're using a hashtag, wear a darn mask, but they're not saying darn, they're saying the actual word, but we can't say the actual word because this is a news show, so you get the idea. You know what the hashtag is. So those celebrities that are posting these pictures include Reese Witherspoon, her Little Fire Everywhere's co-star Kerry Washington, also Mindy Kaling, Lisa Kudrow, and Kudrow's friend Jennifer Aniston. They're all posting pictures of themselves wearing masks, posting the selfie, letting people know that it's not a political statement. It is the kind thing to do. Former Grey's Anatomy star Patrick Dempsey also got in on this. He posted his own mask selfie and he posted the caption, "It's a beautiful day to save lives," which, if you are a Grey's Anatomy fan, you know that that is a catchphrase of Dr. McDreamy, Derek Shepherd. Lots of celebrities are getting in on this. You can search the hashtag on Instagram if you want to check it out. And the good news is, this is a pretty easy fashion bandwagon for everybody to jump on. So grab your mask, wear a darn mask, hashtag, with the real word. You know what the word is. Now, coming up, Governor Mike DeWine is expected to announce a plan for reopening Ohio schools today. During Monday's press conference, he told reporters that they continue to work on a plan to help schools reopen, to keep Ohioans healthy and safe, and to help us learn to live with COVID-19 as we now are in the phase of learning to live with this. So some plans for schools have been discussed, including continued online learning or a mix of in-class and online learning, but there has no official announcement been made yet. We are expected to hear more from him about that today at 2 p.m. We are also expected to hear more about these 7 metrics that are being used by Ohio health officials in order to determine what particular areas are more of a hot spot for COVID-19 that need a little bit more of attention, that we should be just a little bit more concerned about that. So we'll be streaming that press conference at 2 p.m. You can find that on our Facebook page, also on our YouTube page, also on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. If you don't yet have our app, you can download that on the App Store if you have an iOS device, and also in the Google Play Store if you have an Android device. You can stream all of our live streams there. You can also stream all of our shows there. That includes What's New at 5 p.m., What Matters Most at 6 p.m., Front Row at 7 p.m., What's Next at 11 p.m., and Go, our morning show as well, which spans a couple hours in the morning, and those hours vary just a little bit from the weekdays to the weekend. So make sure you download our WKYC app if you haven't already. And there's also now new features in there, so you can send us photos and videos directly. We can use those online and on the air in our TV shows. That's it for our 3 News Now early update for Thursday, July 2nd. I'll be back here at 2 p.m. as soon as we get those new numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health. Everyone enjoy the rest of your morning. I'll see you back here shortly. I'm Stephanie Haney.